So this morning I thought I would go out and take care of some business, probably that I should have taken care of a while ago. And so since today is a holiday and I'm off for the day, I figured I would take care of the business. On my way out the building, a lot of my fellow tenants in the same building, they have a tendency that when I go in and out of the building, especially coming out of the building, they'll make an announcement. Even though it's a derogatory announcement concerning me, they'll make an announcement. When I'm pulling out of the parking lot, sometimes one of them will yell out when I say hello, and I'm steady driving because I never really hang out. I speak and keep moving. And so I'll speak and they'll speak and I'll keep moving. And then I'll hear one of them yell out by the time I get a little distance from them. Or when I'm coming home and pulling into the parking lot, one of them will yell out and say something derogatory. So this morning, I confronted them knowing I knew the response I was going to get, because this is not my first rodeo dealing with narcissists, those that are full of demons and are in desperate need of deliverance, pretty much. And so I knew the response I was going to get, but I don't know what I was thinking. I guess maybe I just wanted to shake things up a little bit because it's been happening for the last 7 years. And so somebody might say, well, why, if you don't like it, then why don't you just move? Well, first of all, you can't run from Satan. You have to stand and face Satan. Everywhere you go, there, voila, there he is. So you can't outrun Satan. You can't hide. You just have to stand and fight, confront and fight if need be. And then, especially as a targeted individual, there is no running. You can forget about that. I don't care where you move to. I don't care where you go. You can move to a different country, a different state, a different city, different town. It does not matter. Everywhere you go, voila, there Satan is. And so, confronting that group, I knew the response I was going to get because they're all narcissists, and I was raised up in a family full of narcissists. So I pretty much know the MO of narcissists. They'll be guilty as what, doing all kinds of things to get under people's skin, all kinds of foolishness, catty petty behaviors to get under people's skin. And as long as you don't confront them or say anything to them about it, it's okay. If you confront them, they are professionals at flipping the script and making you out to be the problem. It's not them, it's you. And it's you being guilty. And then how they handle it is they typically start yelling and screaming and getting overly offended, and they start talking real fast and just getting really loud. They want to draw attention to their victimhood status. They want to come across like a victim, but they want to draw attention to that victimhood status to make people feel sorry for them. And so they flip the script and end up blaming you for what they've done. They'll take the story or take something that they've done and blame you for it. That's the way narcissists typically move. It's typical of Satan to take everything that is good, clean, and pure and turn it negative and bad. And so, hence the scripture that says, putting good for evil and good and evil for good, or bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. That's paraphrasing, but those are scriptures. If you want to know, just ask your phone. And so that's what happened. They just started going off and getting overly upset and started breathing heavy, and you almost thought they might go into a asthma attack. They run out of breath doing all that yelling and hollering and talking loud. And so the more I tried to explain where I was coming from, the louder they got. They didn't want to hear what I had to say. They were so hell-bent on talking and getting their point across, which was a lie. But they wanted to get their point across nonetheless, and they didn't want to hear what I had to say because I was speaking truth. So outside, they sit outside at tables and under a tree, and it's I call them spots the devil's den, because it seems like everybody that sit out there, they're all witches and warlocks. They're all into extracurricular activities, and they're into their own little world, doing whatever they do, and so they just be acting up sometimes. But where I'm concerned, because I'm a targeted individual and I'm in a program, and so when I confront them and they want to act like they don't know what I'm talking about, knowing full well they getting money cards and they getting some sort of perk, whatever perk they're getting. And I know that because the staff is involved, a lot of the fellow tenants are involved, and so they're trying to convince me that it's just all my imagination. But and now if I hadn't said anything, things would have just kept happening like they've been happening for the last 7 years. It's only that this morning that I finally thought, let me say something. I know what the response I'm going to get and the reaction I'm going to get and how they're going to react to me confronting them. But I'm going to confront them nonetheless, because it's something that probably needs to be done. It's inevitable at this point. They've been doing what they've been doing for the last 7 years. To answer the question, if you don't like it, why don't you just move? Because you can't outrun Satan. So I could move somewhere else and he'll be right there waiting. If not waiting, he'll get there shortly after I do. And not only that, but being low income, this is what I can afford. Now, I could say that to the rest of them, but I'm not a menace. I don't cause trouble. I don't talk about people. I stay away from everybody. I stay in my own lane, mind my own business. So I'm not the menace, but I could flip that around and say, well, you're the menace. You're the one that keep up all the trouble. If you don't like it, why don't you move somewhere else? I could very easily do that, but in a narcissist's mind, they don't think that way. They looking at me like, if you don't like it, then why don't you move? Well, I'm not the menace. You're the menace. Why don't you move? And so it's all so crazy and petty. And then plus, that goes with the staff too. If you don't like your place, why don't you move? I like the place, but I'm low income, and that's the reason I'm here. If you don't like your job, why don't you go find something else to do? Because the way you walk around and the way you got your butt on your shoulders with certain things and certain people, me being one of them, it would seem as though that you don't really appreciate your job that much. So I could very easily say that too. If you don't like what you're doing, go find something else to do. I mean, narcissists don't think like that, though. They only think in one-dimensional terms and one-dimensional ways. And so I can see that you're full of demons. You're struggling. You think everything you do is okay, so that tells me that God has handed you over to reprobate mind. God has handed you over to reprobate mind, meaning you think everything you do and say is okay. Definitely when it's not. And you just need deliverance. You're in need of deliverance, but so what? That's the average human being on two legs. And I say it like that because there's a lot of things running around on two legs that's not necessarily human. So that's a whole nother thing right there. So, but at any rate, if you don't have a soul, you can't call yourself human. So there you have it. I figured I would just talk about that because it's something that's part of my experience that's been going on for the last 7 years, and actually a lot longer than that. Before I even met these jokers that I'm dealing with now, it was going on long before I even moved into this building, long before we even moved my mother into this building. So it's just a bunch of different faces going through the same motions, really. And so I figured, I've been going through this for so long, I figured I would speak on that too. So as a targeted individual, and you're being singled out and ostracized and made to be looked at like you're something so terrible and bad and hated, when I'm not the menace. It's the menaces that's causing the problem and stirring the pot. All narcissists, by the way. God bless.